So today what I want to talk about is masculinity and femininity, but probably not in the way we're usually taught to think about them. Because this isn't about men versus women. It isn't about biology, social labels, or our identity roles. So if you came here expecting some battle of the sexes after reading the title, then sorry to disappoint you. There's not going to be any throwing of chairs in this video. But it is about something much more deep and more universal. And that's masculine and feminine are both energies. And every single one of us carries these energies. No matter what our genders are, our background or personality, these two forces exist within us. And learning to recognize, honor, and balance them is essential to living as our true self. So, across many wisdom traditions, the idea of these energies appears again and again. And one way it's described is through what's sometimes called the universal law of gender. And that understanding is that all energy in the universe contains both masculine and feminine aspects. That doesn't mean male and female. It's more about paired traits that cultures have historically labeled as and categorized as masculine traits or feminine traits. Kind of like doing and being, or action and receptivity, or structure and flow. So masculine energy is often associated with traits and behaviors of things like maybe action, direction, logic or focus. There's discipline and protection, and also decision making as well, and creating structure. And it's really the energy that says, move forward, let's go, let's build, let's do this. It's the energy that might buy 3 productivity books and a diary and a planner and a whiteboard and suddenly decide that tomorrow everything's going to be organized and perfect. And that's how I'm going to live my life from this day forward. Whereas feminine energy is often associated with things like intuition, it's associated with presence, creativity, emotion, compassion, nurturing, receptivity and sensitivity. Also, connection is part of it too, and flow. So it's the energy that says things like, let's just listen, let's feel. Let's allow this as it is. And it's the energy that says, let's just sit here for like 45 minutes and think about life. And that can be good sometimes too. Neither is better or worse. Neither's more evolved. They're both meant to work together. So we all carry both, despite our biological sex or gender identification. So a woman can have strong masculine energy, a man can have strong feminine energy, a non-binary person can embody either or both or combinations, and that's generally what it's going to be, combinations for everyone. So our true self is not limited to one side of it. But problems usually arise when we believe we're only allowed to access half of ourselves, because many of us were conditioned early on to suppress one of those energies as bad in favor of the other one as being better or good. So society can often reward people for being strong, productive, and emotionally controlled, but also shamed for sensitivity or vulnerability. Society also encourages people to be caring and agreeable and emotionally available, but can often discourage people from being assertive or having anger. And this conditioning creates imbalance, and imbalance internally is always going to create suffering, or eventually going to create suffering. So a lot of traits that the world generally praises and heavily rewards fall under masculine energy. So we're often taught things that are better are things like hustling or achieving or being productive or being efficient or constant action and pushing through exhaustion. Never quit. So basically it's the modern lifestyle of conquer and destroy. And while masculine energy is powerful and necessary, over-identifying with and overusing it comes at a cost. So when we live only in the doing mode, we risk things like maybe burnout, chronic stress, disconnection from our emotions, loss of our intuition or disconnection from our intuition, and feeling empty even while achieving. And other things like war, battle, and power struggles are also usually caused by over-identifying with masculine energy. But on the other side, if we live almost entirely in feminine energy, always feeling, reflecting, sensing, but rarely acting, we're likely to experience things like feeling stagnant, feeling stuck, indecision, lack of direction, having lots of dreams and goals, but without any movement. So we'll have lots of beautiful ideas and a notebook full of plans that never quite eventuate because we never really leave the couch. And again, the issue is not either masculine or feminine energies. The issue is imbalance and a denial of one or both. So the energy of the true self is not purely masculine or purely feminine. It's both. So the true self uses all of them. It knows when to act, but also knows when to wait. Knows when to lead, knows when to listen. When to set boundaries, when to sit back and soften. When to think, when to feel. But balance doesn't have to mean using both energies equally at the same time either. It just means allowing each to guide you when it serves you best. So I'm going to just give some examples of masculine and feminine traits and how they can work for us when used together though. So maybe the masculine trait of assertiveness, and this allows us to speak up, to protect ourselves and set boundaries. And the feminine trait of empathy or compassion. And this allows us to feel others, understand emotional nuance, and to connect to others. But when assertiveness exists without empathy, it can become like real anger or aggression or domination. But when empathy exists without assertiveness, it can become like things like self-sacrifice or people-pleasing. But together they can create clear, compassionate communication. In other words, you can say what needs to be said without sounding like a bulldozer. Then we might have the masculine traits of structure and discipline. So structure and discipline can help us create routines, follow through, and bring ideas into form. And the feminine trait of creativity and intuition. And this allows ideas to arise naturally, organically, and also use our imagination with that. But without structure, creativity will often not really manifest. And without creativity, structure becomes sort of rigid and lifeless. It becomes very grey. So together they allow us to create sustainably and authentically. One gives the inspiration, the other actually remembers to set the alarm clock or to buy what's required to finish the task. Then there might also be the masculine trait of logic and problem solving. And this helps us analyze situations and make decisions. And the feminine trait of emotional awareness. And this helps us understand what something feels like and what it means on a deeper level. So logic without emotion can be cold and disconnected, whereas emotion without logic can feel overwhelming and chaotic. So together they lead to wise decision making. But what happens when we reject one side over the other? So when we reject too much of one, the energy doesn't actually eliminate. It actually gets repressed and distorts it. So repressed feminine energy often shows up as emotional numbness, feeling overwhelmed, or difficulties with intimacy. And repressed masculine energy often shows up as being passive, resentful, lack of direction, or difficulty asserting our needs. So the true self doesn't reject either. It integrates both of those things. So it likes to live in the flow instead of the conflict. Now, we don't need to perform our masculine or feminine. You don't need to exaggerate one or the other. You don't need to wear a pink shirt to prove how feminine you are or a blue shirt to prove how masculine you are. There's nothing to prove here. You can just simply notice what's already within us and ask, maybe where am I forcing action where rest or feeling is needed? Where am I waiting when maybe action is required? Which energy is asking to lead right now? And this creates flow within us, not chaos, not rigidity, but flow. And flow is the natural state of the true self. So your work here isn't about becoming more masculine or more feminine. It's really about allowing yourself to be whole, by allowing both sides of yourself to exist because they're already in you. So you don't need to start wearing a cape and shout, I am woman, hear me roar, or me learn, me fix, even though I won't use the instructions. That's not required. You just need to honor what's already within you. Now allow the part of you that acts to work alongside a part of you that feels. Now allow the part of you that leads to listen to the part of you that senses. Can allow structure and softness to coexist. And when you do that, that's not a weakness. That's alignment and balance. And that's really what it means to live as our true self.